So is your work training people or enabling them to be trauma specialists?
Yeah, it's a great question. So no, it's more, there's a spectrum here where there'll be some people who are trained as mental health professionals or trauma professionals who are really doing trauma focused work. And they're saying, almost advertising to people, if you've experienced trauma and you want to work with this, come to me, we'll work with it directly. Trauma sensitivity is more a safety net that we can establish in whatever role we're in. And that's why the work, I think, appeals to a lot of different people. So if you're a trauma sensitive mindfulness teacher, you're saying to the effect of, I'm aware that trauma will likely be in spaces where I'm teaching, or it could be yoga or a clinician. I'm aware it will be there. How can I train myself so that I can respond effectively if trauma emerges in the space? And in that case, it's not that you're going in to do trauma therapy with someone, that takes years of training, but being able to respond in a way that either directs them towards different resources or gives them modifications that enables them to really access the benefits of practice. So it's really about learning the circle of our competence and what to do at these different phases, depending on what we're finding when we're working with someone.
Yeah. And a real recognition that actually so much is going on in the world right now that probably a high percentage of people coming to mindfulness classes, if we're talking about mindfulness classes, are likely to have, some experience of something that would be traumatic, whether it be, even just reading the news. Sometimes you may not be directly affected, but it can still be trauma inducing. I'm assuming, but you're the specialist here, but it feels like there's much more opportunity or possibilities of people coming to courses with this.
Yeah, one of the things we cover is that trauma is not just about directly experiencing an overwhelming event, but it's really about trauma exposure.
Yeah.
So we can experience trauma symptoms by learning that an event happened to someone that is close to us, or even through repeated exposure. So yes, trauma can impact us in different ways. And to your point here, we can experience trauma in many different ways, which is something that we cover in the work. We often think about trauma as directly experiencing it, which is true for many people, but it's really about trauma exposure. So that could be, through your example, through news, repeated exposure, also learning that an event happened to someone close to us. So we can experience trauma symptoms in different ways. And given the social conditions right now, yes, trauma is very prevalent. It will be present in different rooms that we're in, online, could be in person. And the main point of the work is not to leave people feeling afraid of that and saying, oh gosh, trauma is going to be there. I have to be concerned or immobilized about that. But quite the opposite. It's to say, if there's an expectation that people will be struggling with trauma in different ways, historical, present moment, that we don't need to be afraid. We can actually be empowered. And we can learn different ways to recognize trauma and respond well. So it's one of the things I try to emphasize in these trainings is it's not about scaring you. It's actually about building confidence so that you feel like no matter what happens, I know I'm going to be okay and I can look after the people that I'm training.